Hey everybody, welcome to Tanner's Books and Beyond, and welcome back to Undead October. I meant to get this out on Monday, sorry it's a bit late. I ran into some issues again, these issues mainly being, I'm a walking disaster. But everything's fine now, and I've managed to read two of the books that were on this month's TBR, Stephen King's Revival and M.R. Carey's The Girl with All the Gifts. Unfortunately, it turns out that Revival wasn't even about zombies though, it was more of a eldritch horror in the same vein as Lovecraft, so we'll talk about that another day. Instead, we'll focus on The Girl with All the Gifts, which is actually zombies. This book concerns a little girl named Melanie, and, well, she's a zombie. And she's in a military base with a bunch of other zombie children, and the way the virus works in this world is that, for whatever reason, it affects children differently, so they can still think, and they can still learn, and they basically have the same minds that you would expect children to have. The key difference, of course, is that if they ever smell human scent, their hunger is triggered, and they basically go into a rage state, then become just as dangerous, if not more so, than their adult versions. But the government has all these children in this space, and they're kept under really heavy security, and every day they go to class, and they're taught all sorts of various subjects. Basically, they're continuously schooled so that the government and the head scientist, Dr. Caldwell, she can try and figure out if there's any hope that these children hold in their biology that might lead to eventually a cure or at least a vaccine that would prevent the rest of humanity from falling to the zombie plague. I quite like this book because it takes a really heavy and quality look at a lot of the tropes that pop up in the zombie narrative. For example, the idea that humans can become even more monstrous than the undead in this situation is really heavily exemplified by Dr. Caldwell as she becomes more and more hell-bent on basically dissecting Melanie in order to try and find a cure, and it gets to a point in the book where she's not even looking for the cure to save humanity, she's looking for it because she wants to be famous for being the person who saved the world. She doesn't really even care about saving lives, she just wants to save her own credibility. And unsurprisingly, it also looks at how children could stay innocent in a situation like this, because in a lot of zombie narratives, especially stuff like The Walking Dead show and games and comics, you see children thrust into the situation that they shouldn't be experiencing at all, but because there's no other choice, they're basically forced to do these horrible things and kill zombies and possibly even kill other humans for their own safety. And in The Girl with All the Gifts, this is turned on its head because now the monsters are the children. And especially with Melanie, when she starts learning what she is, because they don't know that they're zombies at first. And when Melanie starts learning what she is and what that means about her and what that means about her relationships with everyone else, she really has to question her purpose in life and whether she can even live a normal life like the one that she's been taught that children had before the fall. The only negative thing about this book that stood out to me was that the last act is really cluttered. The author introduces so many new plot points at such a small time frame, and then they have to do so much legwork in order to maneuver everything so that he can get a satisfying conclusion at the end. Plus, they also, for some reason, take this time to introduce some little backstory points for some characters who we haven't looked into their backstory yet, and it's like, I'm glad to see the reasons and their motivations behind their actions, but these easily could have been interspersed throughout the middle act. And in fact, a lot of the new plot points also could have been brought up in the middle act, not even necessarily introduced, but just like foreshadowed, but they're not even that. It just all happens in those last 100 pages, and it works out in the end, but it just really messes up the pacing that for the first, like, 2/3, it actually goes really well, and all of a sudden it just goes, ah! However, in the face of everything else in this book, that's really not a huge issue, and ultimately I would give this like a 4 out of 5 stars. It is really good. It's a really nice examination of zombie narrative tropes, and it's a really nice twist on the zombie narrative. And that's hard to find these days, because it seems like everyone has tried every different variation on it, but if you like zombie books, then you should definitely check this out. You will not be disappointed. So next on my list is the Newsflesh trilogy by Myra Grant. It starts with Feed, and then it goes into Deadline. I'm thinking that if I can get halfway through Deadline by the time I next update, and I can actually get my next update out on Monday like I was hoping to for this one, then I should be able to stay on pace. But yeah, so what are your guys' favorite zombie tropes? What do you look for in a zombie narrative? What brings you in and helps you set apart these stories from some of the rest? You guys can tell me in the comments below, or you can hit me up on Twitter and Instagram, which I'll also link to below. But yeah, until next time, I'll see you all later.